Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about Fast 10. I can't believe it. We're gonna let you guys know the good, the bad, the ugly. We're gonna let you guys know our first impressions. This is a non-spoiler review, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring out the other co-hosts here tonight, and that is Jorge and Nat. What's going on, y'all?
What's up?
Hello.
Let's talk about this crazy franchise. So Jorge, I know you're a really big fan of this franchise. You've watched it from the beginning. I'm not gonna say a car buff, but you are. And that I'm not sure how you feel about this franchise, but I was just gonna get you guys first impressions before going into this, and then we'll go ahead and just break out what we think about it. Go ahead, Jorge. Go ahead, Nat.
I'll let Nat go first.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've always liked the franchise. Fast Five, I think, will be hands down my favorite movie of the franchise. And maybe the first one be like a really close second because it really got the ball rolling. And just seeing these characters, grow and the action get even crazier as it goes on. It's just a fun ride. And so I can't wait to talk about Fast 10.
Yeah. Jorge?
Yeah, no, I think like I don't want to say growing up with these characters, but like growing up with these characters, it's nice seeing kind of how this is going. Like this no longer became like a car movie. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like that stopped at like probably at 5, realistically. And then after that it became like a Mission Impossible, like secret agent type of movie that just has cars in it. But this one was a lot of fun. And like Nat said, like I can't wait to like dive into this and talk about it. But no, overall this got good stuff for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the first one. I mean, when it came out, I was like, it got me excited about street racing. It got me excited about, those kind of movies during that era. Like, I mean, Gone in 60 Seconds, of course, is a classic, but Fast and the Furious in its own right is a classic. And so I love Tokyo Drift. Like Nat said, Fast Five, it really ramped up the anticipation where it could go, and they just didn't let go on the gas. So it's ramped up, but it's also has some lulls. Like a lot of people kind of feeling different about 8. A lot of people universally didn't like 9, but they were anticipating the end of this franchise. And technically, this isn't even the end, but we're gonna go into it. So newcomers to this one, Alan Richmond. You got Brie Larson in this one. You got who else is brand new?
Jason Momoa.
I was gonna leave him for last.
Okay.
But I was thinking about the girl that was in Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
Her name is escaping me, unfortunately, but she was the character that was able to, take control of rats.
Yeah.
And then of course we got to talk about Jason Momoa because he made this his own. That's all I'm gonna say. He may be the best villain of this Fast and Furious franchise for a lot of different reasons, and none of them you'll ever guess why. And using this picture as an example, you'll understand once you see the movie. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this. Like I'm surprised how thoroughly entertained I was. The more I thought back to it, and certain implications are very fascinating. There's a lot of callbacks, like very early on, like there's a whole lot of callbacks, and there's a whole lot of surprises that you don't know. There's one end credit scene we can't talk about, so don't ask us in the comment section below. But what were some of you guys' favorite things about this? Like, why was this more thrilling than the last one? Or I'm just gonna preface like this. I think this might be one of the most entertaining since the 7th one, to be honest. I mean, I could skip 8, definitely forget 9, and like right now, this is I could go back and watch this again immediately. But I'll leave it to y'all's floor.
I don't know if this one's the most entertaining one, just because Just because I have a lot of hours spent watching all these movies over and over again. What I will say though is in terms of, I guess, kind of rounding out the story and kind of connecting a lot of the dots, this one has started doing that. It depends how they go, with the final one, like part two to this. How well or how terrible I think this movie will end up being seen. Because this movie, I think the first part of it was awesome. The second part of it, because you have because Dom has such a large family, there's like 42 different storylines that you have to keep up with.
Yep.
And I think that takes away from it. But I feel this is, I mean, I'm not gonna put this in like Infinity War Endgame category where you knew it was a two-part movie, but you have this giant buildup and like we just got done with it, and I'm very excited for what's to come. Like, how
Yeah.
are they gonna conclude all these storylines, and answer like some of these questions that they have? But in terms of different characters like interacting with each other, it gave you all the feels. Like, this brought me back a lot to like the first one, where you kind of see Dom having this kind of like ragtag bunch of guys and also Letty, but that they were just like a little like pack and they had each other's back and all this stuff, and you kind of see that in this one. But yeah, this one was definitely enjoyable.
Yeah. Nat, what's some of the things you can pick on with this movie?
I definitely appreciated the callbacks, especially since a lot of it was tied to the fifth movie, which is again my favorite movie. So, and even just the other storylines from 6, 7, 8, 9, even from the first movie, uh, it like Jorge said, it's gonna be really interesting how they tie this up because I'm really hoping that I like the second half
Yeah.
as much as I like the first half. Yes, it's insane, especially the second half of this movie. But I do think with Jason Momoa being a villain, I concur that he's probably the best villain that they've had so far. I think Charlize Theron is probably like a close second. If we had to rank villains of the Fast and Furious franchises, I do appreciate the son because he was in the trailers. The son, the actor that played the son in this, I think he did an excellent job as far as his scenes with the different characters. And I enjoyed seeing him. He wasn't really like annoying or anything, so I appreciated that. Or he didn't feel annoying, so I definitely enjoyed his scenes, which I again appreciate. And sometimes you can get hit or miss with child actors, so I appreciate it. But yeah, the action you just have to think, how can they top each movie? And I feel like this movie, they definitely topped it in some areas, and in other ways, it's kind of like, okay, I've seen this before, or okay, we've driven down the highway. Let's keep going. let's pick another location here. But it's still a fun ride, and it's still an enjoyable movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I concur with what you guys are saying. I mean, I still think that Fast Five may be the best movie out of the whole. And then Fast and Furious One, of course, is always a classic to me. But it's just interesting to see the progression of this franchise because this is like 20 years in, and it's kind of like some kind of a way I still am perplexed how they keep up in the ante and the foolishness. And the foolishness has to balance out with your sensibilities of what you're watching because you're like, okay, all right, I'm suspending disbelief here. But the one thing I'll say about this one, the first half of it was actually really intense. I think it was very fascinating. I mean, it was actually kind of grounded at times. I was like, man, this is actually getting crazy. And they also did something with some flashbacks that I really appreciated. There was some great cinematography. Some of the shots, the aerial shots and the environments, I think they took their time with because the placeholders were great. And also like the music in this. I was gonna pick y'all's bring about this. Like
Yes.
Fast and Furious is always known to have a dope soundtrack, right? And the last one just really didn't pop. even the 8 one to me really didn't hit. Like 7 was the last decent soundtrack that I felt like really hit, and this one might be pretty good. I was curious y'all's perspective on the soundtrack real quick.
I think one of the things with the soundtrack that I appreciated was all the callbacks to the other movies. So I mean, you literally heard songs that were in Too Fast, Too Furious. You heard songs that were like throughout the whole franchise, and I think that was for me, like just hearing, and it's almost like remixes of the songs, but just hearing it, it brings you back to like all these other parts of the movie, of the series. So I definitely loved it. But no, the soundtrack on this was finally back to normal. I'll go with.
Yeah. What about you, Nat? What do you think?
I mean, I concur. With the score, even it was definitely a callback. So just the overall score and the soundtrack was definitely. I was like dancing a little bit as I was watching the movie because I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is nice. This is a little nice beat or whatever. So yeah, that's what makes it even more enjoyable, especially when you get into like when the music kind of like transcends during the action scenes, especially. And especially when you think about, again, Fast Five, there's a lot of callbacks to Fast Five. Okay, that's why I keep on referencing it. But but with Fast Five, the score was used a lot in this movie, and I think that's what made it great, actually. So, and they actually, added a few things here and there, but definitely a good overall soundtrack. I actually wouldn't mind listening to it like in the next few days as I'm working.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say is that, and I think that the only person I've seen do it well has been James Gunn. Is juggling a lot of characters and making them fundamentally work, right?
Yeah.
They added in 3 to 4 more new characters. And it's kind of like, as much as Brie Larson is in this and Jason Momoa in this, or at least their own. I mean, she's had a couple movies, but she's not part of the family. Like, they find a way of making it work, which doesn't make any sense. Like, you add in a character like Brie Larson, and she fits in like a glove. And I mean, same thing for Jason Momoa. The thing that makes Jason Momoa work so fascinating is because he is the direct antithesis of Dom. Like, the way when you get a gauge of understanding what his goals are, what he's doing, and kind of even how he reacts to everything, he is a very fascinating character. I want to say so much more. We can't talk about it. We can't spoil anything. But I think the reason why I think he might be one of the best villains is because not only does he have nothing to lose, he enjoys suffering. Like, he enjoys just doing whatever he wants. And it's like some scenes, like there's the race scene. I was talking to Jorge. I was like, there's going to be a race scene. There's going to be a race scene. When he shows up to the race scene, it changes the whole atmosphere. And it's like some characters can't do that, but Jason is just eating up scenery and he's enjoying every second of it, to the point that, I mean, most of us know Jason Momoa is not like a small guy. Like, he does most of his own stunts. Like, physicality wise, he's there, but we haven't seen him be this. And yeah, I can't wait for you guys to kind of see that. Did you guys want to pick on anything else with him or any other character?
I think with him, one of the things that stands out to me, so I was bummed that originally, like, his hero car was going to be a GTR, and they ended up changing it, obviously in the movie to kind of like these, almost like a counter to Dom's Charger. Like, Dom has always had a Charger, and it's almost like he has like the counterpart to it. But with these movies, like, the cars actually represent these characters so well. When you kind of look at it, it's almost like the car's a part of them. And I think that's something that with Jason's character, like, I was so happy that they went with like an old muscle car that, realistically, like some of those cars, if you've ever driven them and all that, they're very hard to control. And most of the time, like, especially if you're going hard on them, like, you're almost out of control while controlling the car. And something like a GTR, and this is where my car, like, geekiness is gonna come out. But like with a GTR, those things are almost like bulletproof. Like, they handle like on a rail. They're made for like sophistication and like precise driving. So I think the way that he chose his car kind of mimics his character so well, in how everyone has like their own, kind of little story. Like even in the first scene, like when you see like Han, the car that he's driving versus, like Tyrese's character, like all these cars kind of fit their personalities, which I love that they do that. Like they're that like specific with it. But how about you, Nat? What do you think?
I appreciated, well, like you with cars, I appreciated the style, like what people wear. Like you see what Tej wears, what Rome wears, what Ramsey wears, what even Dom wears, the infamous white shirt, like tank top shirt. I didn't even see it in this movie. I didn't notice it. Maybe I completely glossed over it, but he has a certain style, and even Jason Momoa in this movie had a certain style, and it worked for him. Like the way that he had his hair in this movie, there is one scene, that scene, but there's another scene where the way that his hair was, and then him being, over the top, but him at the same time, like I feel like he was playing himself, but really having fun and playing an insane person. I don't know. It was like this weird combination that just worked for this movie, and it, with the craziness of this movie, it just works, and you're enjoying him as a villain, even though you know that he is crazy as heck. But it's kind of like, what are you going to do next here? Like, what is up in your arsenal? Like, you're already like several steps ahead here. Like, how far are we going with this? So it'll be really interesting to see, especially in the second part.
Yeah, I do feel like with his character, it's almost like they literally just probably told him like, these are your lines, like just do whatever, like go out there, like go as far out as you want, or keep it in. Because I do agree, like, and as soon as you said hairstyle, like little things like that even throughout the movie were like there's one scene that he did where he's with two people and just chatting with them, which it is something that is like I was dying on the inside, and it's something that it fits him though. Like watching the scene, like I'm just like, yeah, he would do that. Like that's something.
Yeah, that's that cat's MO.
Yeah, sure. Like it's just phenomenal. Like I'm still processing because I know both of you guys have said like he's been the best villain, and there's been a lot of villains in this movie, so I'm like, he's up there. I'm not sure if he's the best. I want to see how like what happens with him, because I think that's what's going to change, because most of the villains in these movies in a weird way end up becoming like allies.
Yeah,
and I kind of want to see, I just want to see a bad guy, like and
yeah, like what happens when you cannot convert somebody to do the right thing? Family is not enough to this, but no, yeah. Switching gears so we don't go into spoiler territory. Let's talk about some negatives. Just one negative, if anybody has one. I'll start off. Again, I enjoyed the first half. When I got into the second half, it started going to this territory of like, okay, this is just getting insanity. And there was a scene with two people fighting in a very confined situation with a lot of limited amount of time, and they just started fighting just because it's an action movie, and it took me completely out. Like, I know that sounds crazy for a Fast and Furious movie, but there was absolutely no logic to the fight. And then there were a couple other times where it was like just extra stuff. Like, I think whenever there's a car scene in general, and there's like a tank or a helicopter or something going on, and like you're trying to suspend belief, that tether is always being pulled, and sometimes it pulls out, and I kind of go and process back in because I'm enjoying what the actors are doing with the characters. So I think that's the biggest thing I can nitpick about any of these movies, but this one, those are the two things. Like, there were certain fights that they didn't make any sense. There's another fight that happens in a cafe, made no sense. It was just a waste of time to me. So those two scenes kind of took me out of it, and then the suspending of belief are kind of some things that happen with me in Fast and Furious that kind of, but I get over it because I'm still having an entertaining time. So outside of that, I don't have any other nitpicks because I know what kind of movie I'm getting. I'll leave it at that. What about you guys?
Jorge, you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm gonna just I really like this movie, and and I'm gonna nitpick on like, but I think it's almost like what Sam, what you just said, like you know what you're getting into with these movies. So like, as much as I love the cars that are in this movie, like don't expect to do any of this stuff. Like your car will blow up, your car will break in half. Like it's very unbelievable stuff. And I think for me, just being a car guy, like stuff like that takes me out of the movie. Because I remember when this franchise first started, it was about the cars. And it was somewhat believable. Like, yes, they shifted 800 times in a quarter mile, but you still believed it, you know? Now stuff that they're doing, I'm just like, bruh, like that car would have been destroyed, and yet you're still driving it. I think for me, the only part that if I could nitpick at it, but this is just looking at it in a singleton point of view, I think it's kind of like what you said. There's so many storylines that some people, I don't want to say it felt forced just for them to have like their 30 seconds of fame, but it's almost like they tried giving every single character a moment in this movie, and I'm not sure if that was needed. I think that would be some of the stunts, like I love this franchise, so it's hard for me to bash them, but it's like some of the stuff that they're doing, even with like the characters in real life, I'm like, dude, if you jump out of a car going like 50 miles an hour, like you're not gonna get up with no scratches. And so it's little things like that that just irk me. But then again, this is a Fast and Furious movie, so it happens. You know? As a Captain America shield now, you know, it happens. The one thing I will say that and progressively throughout the movies that they do a lot better at is when they talk about the cars, like they like in that shot that you had right before there, Sam, it shows like one of the Lamborghinis, and it was really cool hearing them actually talk about real stuff with the Lamborghini. And you know, it's stuff that a lot of car guys will understand. Like they were talking about how it has a stage 3 UGR turbo, and that's, you know, an underground racing turbo kit on that car, which is one of the best companies for, you know, twin turboing Lamborghinis and all this stuff. So I do enjoy how they still are keeping to that. But at the same time, an underground racing Lamborghini would be terrible in these situations. And that's where like the car knowledge for me kills it. While, you know, looking at it, I'm like, oh, like this is fun and enjoyable. But yeah, those would be my nitpicks.
It's funny, Sam, that you mentioned the scene, because I was kind of like, yeah, why? Just, and I know it's because this character always gets a fight scene with like a powerhouse like woman, and so I'm just like, it wasn't necessary. But as much as I love this franchise, sometimes I do have to roll my eyes. I'm like, really, guys? But at the same time, because of the way that it's shot, it's kind of like, dang, that looks so awesome. It's kind of like a catch-22.
No, it's
100%. So yeah, those are just the little nitpicks. And I actually think the other scene that you were referencing, Sam, I feel like that was like a scene that probably should have happened a long time ago, just because of the way that these characters kind of like go at each other a lot. I just feel like because of the intense situation that's probably bigger than what they're, you know, what they normally go through, if, you know, in quotation marks here, this is a villain that's like really like on another level here. And so it's kind of like resources, what tensions can rise on that, especially when situations happen. And so I feel like that, and because of the way that they clash with each other anyway, I feel like it would have happened eventually. So I feel like it kind of makes more sense, even though it was still a waste of time at the same time. It's really weird. Like, I get it, but I also understand your point.
Yeah, man, this might be the movie I might end up having to go back and do a spoiler review on.
Hey. I'll be there. I'll be there.
We're holding in for you guys, just so you guys know.
It is really hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it. I don't know about, like, for me, it's been very difficult. This has a lot for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it closed trap. But final thoughts. What do we rate this? What do we rate it, and where you rank it? I know it's gonna be hard for you, Jorge. But I'll let Nat go first. What do you rate this one from A to F, and where would you rank it currently? And that's subject to change, you guys. We may change our minds later on after a few days.
Are you talking as far as the rest of the series, as well as the rating for the movie itself?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I would rate this maybe a solid like B. It's fun. Like you said, some scenes kind of take you out of it. It kind of frustrates you, but at the same time, it's still so fun. And with the new characters that are introduced, they kind of still remind you of other characters that have been introduced already that you don't really see in this movie. But they still play a role, and the chemistry between these characters, even the new people that get brought in, you kind of feel it. And so I think that's always a plus in these movies, I think, which is great because they pick, villains or actors and other characters that can just fit in and, kind of like help the show or the movies grow even more. So yeah, B for the movie. As far as how it ranks in the rest of the franchise, I want to say it's probably 4 out of the 10 so far. So of course, Fast 5, number 1. Number 1 would be number 2. Kind of wavering on number 3, but I feel like this would be right there on 4 as far as movies go.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Jorge, what about you?
All right, so this is just from my point of view only. Like, I would probably give this like an A minus. Just because I love these characters. Like, I grew up with these, you know what I'm saying? Like, I own a Skyline now because of, like, I've always loved Skylines, but this movie brought Skylines up, in it. So so I would give it an A minus. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Believability and all that out the window, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself. In terms of where I would put this, that's a hard one. I would put it in the upper half for sure. It'd be between 1, like 1 and 5. I do think probably 5 is the most entertaining, out of the bunch. I'd probably put Fast and Furious 1 after that. 7 has to go up there because 7 was after, like, Paul Walker actually died. So that one just had like sentimental feels, like where a lot of grown adults were crying in the movie at that last scene. 6 was entertaining, and this one's entertaining. Like, it's hard, like, to put it. I would put it in the top 5 in the series, for sure. But yeah, this one was very enjoyable. I don't think anyone will come out of this feeling disappointed. Let's go with that.
Yeah. I mean, I concur with you guys. I mean, as far as me for a rating, I mean, technically, this is the sequel to Fast 5, and they elevate it from that. And for me, it's like a B plus to. It's either a B or a B plus, and I think it has room to grow because I feel like if I go back now, washing my brain from 9 and going back and just revisiting why I'm enjoying this franchise. Because I think while I was watching, I was like, man, I forgot how much I really enjoy watching these movies. And this one brought me back to that rediscovery. As far as my ranking is concerned, Fast 5 is number 1. Fast and Furious 1 is number 2, which we've all said. I would actually agree with Jorge. It'd probably be 7. And then it would probably be a tie. It'd probably be a tie for me for this one and 6. Only reason why is because 6, I love the opening of 6. Like, I love how 6 opened. Like, I always can rock out to that one. And of course, the 7th one is fast. Like, Paul Walker's last movie. But yeah, I think this was like number 4. It's like a tie. Like it's either 4 or 5 for me.
Yeah.
Because I can never forget how 7 ended. Like 7, like you just never forget.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I mean, if you were on the fence about this movie, hopefully this gives you a little bit more grace to feel like, okay, I might have a good time with this. So yeah, we give you guys a stamp of approval. Go and check out Fast and Furious 10 once it's out. And we may do a spoiler discussion on this. I don't know. Like, y'all let us know. If you want it in the comment section below, please let us know. And we're going to go because it's late at night. We got to sleep. Peace, everybody.
Filing out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my time.